Welcome everyone to week 3 of the Juggle Bootcamp. Today we're going to be going over what I call mixed tempo juggles. I don't think um, there's like a formal name for this or an established name for these types of juggles. It's just something that that I've observed this style of juggle in history, and I think it's a really cool style of juggling, and it's got a lot of potential, and it's very rare. This is probably the rarest style of juggle that we're covering in this boot camp, which is part of the reason why you'll see today that there is less examples. And there's a couple examples that I'm throwing in just for a little bit of, just to tie them in. I think they're worth knowing, and and they kind of tie into just my journey of making some of my juggles that I'm going to show today. But really, there's there's only about 3 juggles that I'm really focusing on for patterns, because the first thing is there's just not that many examples altogether, but then even less good examples or great examples. So it's this is a tough style, but I think you guys are gonna like some of the patterns because when you know how to put these patterns together and you know sort of the tricks behind it, because there's a little bit of music theory that I'm gonna give to you guys, that this is cutting edge stuff. Haven't shown anybody this. I made it for the boot camp, but it'll hopefully help sort of guide how to start these routines and how to make them. Because I think one of the toughest part of making good mixed tempo routines is knowing knowing what sort of speeds to mix together. You can't just do any speed with any speed, or else it'll sound kind of chaotic and sloppy and not so rhythmic. And there's a lot of examples of those when I was looking, and I was trying to find like good examples, and also sort of why the good examples are good and why the not so good ones are not so good, to try and help you guys steer clear of that. So just an overview of today, doing a little intro here, then we're going into mixed 33-45 patterns, or something like that. You'll see in a bit. Then I want to go into, before I demonstrate some of the patterns, I want to go into a little bit of the theory behind it, which I think will help in not just recreating these patterns, but making your own, because that's obviously the big end goal for this whole boot camp, is to give you stuff to make your own juggles. And then going into some like faderless patterns just at the end, that are just somewhat related. They're patterns from one of my juggles that tie in, so I want to throw that in here as well. Then we'll do our question answer and then homework videos at the end. Okay, before we get into some demonstrations, so a mixed tempo juggle, as I call it, is when you're juggling 2 different tempos together at the same time. And usually the end result, and when it's done well, is that you create kind of a tempo or a rhythm that is somewhere between the 2 that you started with. There's a rhythm that comes about that isn't that you couldn't do if you just juggled them both at the faster tempo or at the slower tempo, which you'll hear it, and when I demonstrate, and this will make a bit more sense. And in the examples that I'm covering today, it's always going to be 2 copies of the same track played at different speeds. But in theory, you could use 2 different tracks. I'm pretty sure it has been done. I was trying to find a good example, but I couldn't really find one where someone was using two different songs that were also different tempos. But last week was all about combo juggles and mixing different tracks and different sample sources together. And there's no reason why you can't kind of combine both these ideas together, mixed tempo and a combo juggle with two different songs. As I was saying before, it's a very rare style of juggle. There's very few good examples of it. There are many examples that I found that were people juggling like between -8, +8, and 0. Like one side is like +8, one's 0, whatever, or like mixing between. And the reason for that is obviously that historically, like 1200s are the main turntable for decades in battling, and that was the options you have. You have +8, 0, and -8 on the pitch fader. But those pitches in music in general, like +8 and -8 don't hit like a real note. Like they're not in music as a whole. We usually measure the distances between notes in semitones and tones, and +8 and -8 are not really a semitone or a tone. They're somewhere in between, so they're kind of out of key, basically. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's hard to find good examples. But I have done a lot of trial and error. I've made a mixed tempo juggle, and I studied good examples and tried to figure out why. I think I have a good idea of why certain ones work and why certain ones don't. And so I'm going to give you a little theory and a little music math that I think will help in creating your own and sort of avoiding some of the pitfalls, as I was saying, with people sticking to like the +8, -8 type of stuff. So with that said, I wanted to show just one little routine. So does anybody recognize this guy or this routine? I feel like this DJ is pretty underrated, probably because this is just something that if you dig enough in battle history is not Lil Jazz, no. But yeah, if you dig enough in battle history, sometimes like there's some guys who are really dope, and just in the vinyl days, especially like when it was the big moment or whatever, they made the finals. They had a bunch of needle skips and kind of like, ruins their set or something. Some people, there's been a few examples in history of people with routines that were arguably like world winning quality, or at least national winning quality, but the needles were just not their friend that day, or something went wrong, technical difficulties. I think that was kind of the case with this man right here, J Slim. I think still a lot of people know this specific routine. If you've ever seen Scratch the Movie, you're probably familiar with this.
So step up if you want to get hurt. So step up if you want to get hurt. So step up if so step up if so step up if you want to get hurt. If you step up, you get hurt. Get hurt. If you step up, suck my motherfucking dick.
So, yeah. So that's like Scratch the Movie played that clip. It's pretty legendary little wordplay, and I think that's like probably what he's like most known for. But that the routine that he had that year, the rest of the routine was really good. And I think he's a bit of a beat juggle genius, super underrated. And he has some of the best mixed tempo juggles that I've ever seen. Unfortunately, like I said, on the day, I think he still got third in the US. But yeah, he one of the juggles at least he had to kind of scrap the whole end of it because of skipping, and yeah, he had issues with the other one too. So that's really unfortunate, but luckily through the magic of the internet, there is this like hotel room footage of his juggles, and they're done cleanly. So yeah, we can check those out right now. Um, there's two in this video, and he does both of them are mixed tempo juggles. Probably because I feel like he kind of innovated this, so he's probably really trying to show the potential of it that year. And we're gonna watch both of them, and I'm gonna go through patterns from both of them because they're both super interesting juggles. Yeah, so so that's the first juggle. That's his Prince. I think that's a Prince track. I forget which song now. Um, and he only really does like the whole juggle is sick. It's worth watching, but he only really mixes the tempo at the very end. Um, and in the first juggle, the way that he does it is um he's playing one track slow and then kind of swinging the faster track and meshing it together that way. And then in this second juggle, this one is my favorite one. This one he really dives into the mixed tempo stuff. And this one is where um, he's going into yeah like a sort of a 45-33 mix type of juggle, and he's doing it for most of the juggle in this one. There we go. Um, yeah, this is I think it's Redman Oh Brother or something like that. Um, but yeah, those are the two mixed tempo juggles of J Slim's that I wanted to show. Super dope, very unique. That's what I like the most about them is there's not really um, um, there's not really any other juggles I've seen like that. Like these are, yeah, I don't know any other juggles that have these patterns. Um, Slang asked if the needle just skipped for him or other people. I'm pretty sure is mostly just for him because if I recall, um, yeah, Clever won, and I don't think he had any skipping issues. Um, but yeah, so that's that's the mixed tempo stuff. So now I made something just for you guys. Um, if you were in my Scratch Bootcamp, you will somewhat recognize this because it's related to it's all turntable pitch theory. So I did something like this for tones and fader tone stuff in the last bootcamp, but for beat juggling, it still applies. Um, so basically, um, when I was trying to when I was trying to figure out basically like why certain intervals worked and why like you could mix tempos and sometimes it would flow nice and sometimes it wouldn't and sometimes it would sound nice and sometimes it wouldn't um, and you know there's a lot of trial and error and then I kind of I realized and learned over time when I learned more about this kind of stuff that there's I think like a reason for this and there's sort of like guidelines you can use for mixing tempos a little bit. So what I have here is um, a, a little sheet that is showing the pitch intervals of certain percentages. So this is when you're using tones and stuff, this is really useful because if you want to go from, you know, an A note to a D note or something, you know that's 5 semitones, and then you can look at the percentage column. That's the one that's the most important for us. The percentage is how much you have to speed up or slow down the song you're using. Um, and I put a little like in sort of the right hand section. You can see I put 33 is obviously 0%. That's like your middle where you're starting, and then 45 is pretty close to plus 33% or 5 semitones. Um, and basically, there's sort of there's always a relationship with music and math where a lot of like the notes that you're hitting, like if you're trying to play in key, are actually like a fraction of the starting pitch, or some sort of yeah, like a fraction or a ratio. So, for example, like going up 4 semitones, which would be a major third for any of the musicians out there. A major third is 25% faster, and a perfect fifth is 50% faster. A perfect fourth is 33% faster. So that's just how music works. It's like if you're you know, playing a string instrument, if you put your finger halfway, like that creates a like 50% creates a perfect fifth, and if you put it a quarter of the way, it creates a major third. That's just how pitch works and how key works and everything. So first thing, if you want to stay in key, you want to make sure that you're using intervals that line up with a percentage column. But then if you also want to stay in time and have things that rhythmically flow together, this is what I found, and this is where the juggleable intervals column here is kind of useful. But basically, I kind of highlighted the main sort of speed differences that are compatible. So if we just look at one, like this one's pretty obvious, is if you juggle one track at 0 and then one at half speed. So say you juggled a track at 140 BPM on one side and then 70 on the other. That makes sense, right? Like those are obviously going to be compatible. in terms of speed for juggling them, and the rhythms are going to sync together, right? It's just going to be exactly half the speed. But also, if you do like 33%, that's a nice ratio, 3-1. Or if you do 25%, is another one, 4-1. Those are going to give you not necessarily, they're not going to beat match like in the exact same way. Like if you have two tracks at 0%, they're going to beat match perfectly. And if you have one at -50, it's going to beat match half the speed, but it's going to go perfectly. But then some of these other intervals, even though they're not, the loops are not going to, the loops are not going to line up every 4 bars or every 8 bars, but they will line up somewhere. And when you start juggling them, it's going to help. And yeah, so with that said, I'm going to stop talking about it and I'm going to start showing you what I mean by this, because it's easier to hear it and to understand what's going on that way. So, let me see. I'm going to start. Yeah. Like like Slang said, there's a lot of music theory there. If you don't know any music theory at all, it's might be a little daunting, but all you really need to know is there's a column there of different percentages, and if you mix 0% with one of the other percentages in that column and just play with it and experiment, there's probably going to be something there. Some of those percentages, like some of those, like going 0 and -33, for example, there's no routines. I haven't found a routine that uses those, but I know that it works. So some of that is like, it's going to be new territories for you guys to explore. Today, the main speed difference that we're going to go with is 50% difference. So plus 50 on the sheet. So this is the beat that I made to start off with today. Okay. So we got this, just, yeah, a little funky piano beat. So on this side, I'm actually going to go -8. And on the other side, I'm going to go at 45. And so Jay Slim, in his video, he did -8 and 45. And it worked really well. But then I noticed this one part of the routine, namely at the very end of his juggle. He does it live and he does it in the video, where he starts playing the tracks and trick mixing them. So one track is this. So he has two different speeds there, but he plays them together and he does something like this. And when he did that in the videos, I was like, it almost worked for a second, but then it started to kind of train wreck there at the end, right? I'll do it again. Okay, so it starts to go off. And that was sort of my clue. I was like, okay, wait, there's a reason why his patterns worked and it flowed well. And I started experimenting with stuff, and basically what I discovered is that he was going about he's going about 48% faster. Like when he goes -8 over here and 45 over here, it's about 40 something percent faster. But in order to get it to sync perfectly, you actually need to go 50%. So that's 2.2% faster here. So, and like if you're trying to figure this out, the way that I did it is I just play this beat at -8 is at 92, and then I just multiply 92 by 1.5, which is 138. and then I just beat match this to 138. So I'm not, it's not anything deeper than that. It's just whatever time plus 50%. Now, so I realized that his idea of mixing 33 minus 8 and 45 was really, really close, but to get it perfect and to get them to sync, and why you can do cool patterns with mixed tempos is because when it's plus 50, they'll actually sync perfectly in a way. You'll hear. Right? The sound keeps fading in and out. I have original sound for musicians on. Is it fading out for other people? It could be it could be on your end. Yep, it is indeed on your end, Junior Chuck. You gotta set your own audio settings. Okay. Yeah. So does everyone hear that? So after the long buildup of the theory and the math and everything, you hear that I'm playing a beat that's like this. And then on this side, I'm playing this. And it doesn't, at first, it doesn't really make sense that they would beat match, but it actually, it does beat match. It's not in the same way that it would if you're playing two tracks at the exact same tempo, but it's like this one for every 4 bars, this one plays 6 bars, and then it will match up like that. So that's sort of the essence of J Slim's juggles. So this is how you actually want to beat match it. So -8 33 and then 2.2 45 is how we're gonna mix these together. And then the first drill, just to like make sure that you have that, is just to get those beat matched, and then try some trick mixing patterns. So you can do you can just play this side, and then you can loop I'm using the note before the one here. So you can do something like this. Make sense? So just, trick mixing, looping, it gets that like bouncy kind of sound between it. So that's what I was talking about, where if you just juggled this slow tempo, that's a straight beat, and this one's straight as well. But then when you mix them together, you start to get this like baked in swing that is different than what you do when you have like your tap pause swing patterns, that kind of thing. So yeah, first thing, just getting them beat match, mess around with trick mixing like that. You can just do just the basic trick mixing with letting them play as well. So for that one, I'm just dropping on the one here and the note before the one here, but the key is to go kick, 2 notes, snare, just like that. Get those together, and then keep going back and forth. And the tempo that you're trick mixing, you want to listen to this. This is your leader record, so you're cutting in the downbeats here. And you're filling it in with the notes over here. So just like that. Um, so so yeah, basically for for the start of this, like if just this whole idea and working with two different speeds and stuff is tricky, just start with trick mixing like that. That's drill number one. It's as easy as getting it beat matched and then trick mixing and getting used to where you're gonna drop this faster tempo in between the beats here and make sure that you're listening to this tempo to make it all sync together. So that is pattern number one. Pattern number two, we're gonna go into, just one sec. If possible, can you troubleshoot in private just so it doesn't, that I'd like to see the chat if people are asking questions and stuff without scrolling. Yeah. I know you missed the first few weeks, Junior Chuck, where you could have troubleshot this stuff. But yeah, so the second pattern, this comes straight from sort of the intro of Jay Slim's first routine, where he starts mixing the two tempos just by tapping. So just playing the beat on one side and then tapping the other to match that beat. So when you're mixing tempos, you still have to sort of pick one of the tempos as the leader, essentially. So one of the tempos is the one that is gonna hold the tempo of the full juggle. So in this case, the tempo that you're juggling to is gonna be this speed. And then on this one, you're gonna tap it and try to match that speed. It's a little bit weird because it's not the same speed of tapping that you do when you're doing like a swing pattern or something. It's a little bit quicker than that. You can set a metronome to the speed of the original beat if you like. Yeah. So for the drill portion of it, just try to do 8 beats per side and then go to 4 beats per side, and just try and keep like a consistent rhythm between it. It's pretty tough because this record is spinning so fast. It's spinning at faster than 45, and getting it to match the tempo so you're not speeding up or slowing down when you switch sides is a little bit tricky. So this is, fairly simple stuff, but I want to make sure I'm covering it because when we get into these next patterns, it's not going to be as easy. So, yeah, so second drill. Just like that. So you're essentially just you're playing one side normal, not doing anything to it, and then tapping on the other side. Yes, definitely, Andrew. Yep. So you're yeah, it's faster tapping than what you would normally do. Yeah, just like that. But yeah, focus on the release. So something I always recommend, and if you're tapping with the record spinning this fast, even if you're experienced with tapping and breaking it down, this might be a little bit tricky. So don't be afraid to just like spend time just trying to isolate each note. that's kind of the key to doing clean taps, is that you're not, yeah, like I said last time, you're not focused on having your hand like sort of hover and then tapping really quickly. You're actually like, you're holding the record and you're just releasing a single note at a time. So just focus on clean releases of a single note. Don't let it go into the next note. And then once you're comfortable with that, then you can speed it up and try to get it in sync with the speed that is happening on this record. Yeah. Yeah, so home bass, tap is holding, and then release a note and quickly catch it again. Just isolate the notes like that. So that is drill number 2. Now, we're going to go into another pattern that is from the first J Slim routine, the Prince one there. And this one is not exact from his routine, but very close. And this one, we're going to actually, start to juggle it a little bit. So this one, we're going to play the first side for 3 notes. And then on the second side, we're going to play the first note and then do a baby push on the second note. The baby push, if you recall, was in the P money pattern in the first week. There's a baby push in there. So this is very similar. It's not quite the same. The difference for this one is you're going to play the first note and you're going to baby push on the kick. So the P money baby push was right on the note, like he cued it and baby push directly on that note. Now we're going to play the piano note before and then do a baby into the second kick and push it to the snare. Like that. So, when you put it together, so when you're doing just a regular speed pattern on the slower beat, in this case just not even touching it, and then a swing pattern on the second beat, it will match the tempo together. Do you hear that? How they kind of start to mesh together and flow together. They create a similar tempo, even though one is straight and one is swung over here. Yep. And then, yes, that's right, Buckles. Exactly. Think of the taps as a release and not a tap, even though it's called a tap. I didn't name it. But yeah, so this pattern, so basically the first part of it, you're just going to do exactly this and then drop the note before the one. One more time. Okay, so that's the first half of the pattern. The second half of the pattern is very close, but I just want to throw this in because I don't think there's a name for this either, but I call it just like chain combos when juggling. So sometimes you're going to chain multiple techniques together in a row, and J Slim does this in his routine, and I think this is just a good time to do it. But the second time you go through the pattern, I want you to do the baby push. And then after you hit the snare, you're going to add a tap now. So you're doing a baby push into a tap. Just like that. And when you add that tap, you don't need to hit this note anymore. you can just drop it right on the 1 the second time through. So the second half of the pattern. Like that. So putting the two halves together, the first half, there's no tap, but you hit this note, the note before the 1. And the second time you add a tap and then you just drop it on the 1. So full pattern, drill number 3. Drill number 3. Just like that. Putting both things together. So yeah, that is drill number 3. And that is getting into one of the real patterns from the routine. Am I not tap pausing after the push? That's what I just said, Bear. I chained a baby push into a tap for the second half of the pattern. Yep. Oh, what note? Okay, sorry. You had a typo in there. The note that I'm tapping is, I'm putting the pause after the snare before the kick. Right there. It's not on the end. It's after the snare, between the kick. Yeah, I don't think it's really, like, I don't know. I don't really think of putting the tap on the and or on the downbeat or anything, for basically the reason that we're talking about. We're releasing the notes. So I'm releasing the snare and pausing, and then I'm releasing the kick. That's after the snare. And you'll get this beat. You'll get this beat in your email tomorrow, so you'll be able to hear exactly where it is and tell where it is. So yeah. But I just wouldn't think of it as putting the tap on the and. It wouldn't be either. It's early. Like you're hitting, it's directly after the 2. Yeah. Okay, so that is drill number 3, and drill number 4. Same cue points for all these. It's always been Q1 on here and Q5 on here for these ones. And for this one, it's another pattern from the first routine that J Slim does. A little variation, and this one is kind of similar to the Kiko pattern with the push and the drag from last week. So if you can do that one, then this one might feel kind of similar, except that the records are at 2 different speeds this week, so that's a little bit weird. But for this one, we're starting on the 1 here, and then on this side, we're going to grab the kick that's after the snare. Has a little, or I can't make that sound. Has a little like yelp on it. That's what we're going to use. And so for this one, we're going to hit the 1 and then pull back from that kick to the snare right away. That little pull, reverse pull technique is a very common one. Creates a little triplet. So first a little bit of the pattern. Yep. So you can just pull back the kick to the snare there, and you get like that little triplet together, if that makes sense. And you can practice it like that too as well, like just practice only that part of it to get it down. And then after you get that, you're going to do a trick mix, so you get 2 piano notes, but you're going to get the low pitch and the high pitch. So low note, high note, and then you get the snare from this side. And there's a super tiny detail here. This one's really hard. I was not hitting this all the time when I was practicing earlier because it's so subtle. But to get the right swing and groove in this, you're actually going to hear a tiny bit of the high pitch snare before you hear this snare. So you hear the cuckoo, like that little the high-low snare, like rolling into itself. You want that. Yeah, just like that. Cuckoo. You want to hear that cuckoo sound. These little like swing notes in patterns are really important to make sure like the groove is flowing properly and it sounds more musical. And after you hear that, you're going to bring it back to the snare that you just pulled it back to and add a tap after it. So the tap is the same as the previous drill. Yeah, so that's that's the full pattern, but I will demonstrate it and do a few clean ones in a row. So this is drill number 4. Like that. Yeah, that's the perfect gif right there for it. That's how I feel right now. Yeah, super funky pattern, and we are just getting funkier. So, we are gonna dive into the next set of patterns. So for this one, let me just see here. Yeah, okay. So for this one, this is one of the patterns from his second juggle in the video, the Red Man juggle. And this is an actual pattern from it. So this one I'm going to show you the full real pattern. So for this one, we're using the same cue point still, but the key to this is using this double piano note. So I put a piano note right on the 1, right? But there's also a piano note before the 1. So a boom, boom. And then same on this side. So we're going to make use of those. There's certain patterns where if you start them, like if you base your pattern around the note before the 1 or some note that isn't the 1, it sort of unlocks different patterns and flows. This is a really good example of that. This is probably one of the better examples of why if you see my streams or flip or flop or anything like that, I'm always telling people don't just start your patterns right on the 1. Try to find different places because it unlocks more creative sounds. So for this one, we're going to play the 2 stabs here, and then the 2 stabs here, and then we're going to hit the snare. So almost starting it like the very first trick mix pattern. So if you work through this and you do the first trick mix pattern, you know, boom, good snare. If you do that, then this is the same. We're just starting 1 note earlier. So stab, 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 snare. And I'm saying stab as in a musical stab, like a piano stab, not as a stab scratch. So stab, 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 snare. Oops. There we go. Stab, 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 snare. And then this one, we're going to hit that snare again. So as soon as you hear that snare, you're going to come over to this side. So you're going to hear low snare, high snare, low snare again. So that's kind of one of the themes of a lot of these patterns is you're going to almost hear this like musical kind of back and forth between the different pitches of snares and kicks and stuff, which I think makes it sound cool. But yeah, you're going to hear 2 stabs, low, high, low. Just like that. And then when you double that snare, you're going to bring it back and baby it. Like that, a little quick baby. Like that. Did it do? It's a little bit of swung baby as well. Once you do the swung baby, then you tap the note before the note before the snare into the snare. So the ha snare. So full pattern. Just like that. And my bad, I just lied. Sort of. That is drill. That's the first half of drill 5. I forgot. This is an A-B pattern. So that's the first half of it. The second half is right. Okay, the second half of this pattern. I'm just reading my notes as I go. Second half. I wish there was notation for juggling. I literally describe like in a paragraph how to do the patterns so I remember them. Anyways, so the second half of the pattern, 2 stabs right, 2 stabs left again, like this. So 2 stabs, and then you bring it back to the snare on this side. Just like that. So I'm doing 2 stabs, back to this snare, and then we do a tap after that. Yeah, we do a tap after that, and then you're going to play these 2 stabs, and then hit this note to finish it off just once. Got it? So that is the second half of the pattern. So I'll do the full pattern. So I did warn you guys, we started with a couple easy patterns, but these are possibly the hardest patterns of the boot camp. Because the other thing to remember, this one is at 45 plus a little bit. So 2 records spinning at different speeds is a weird feel as well that will take some getting used to. So, okay. I'll do the full pattern. Slang love, I just said it. You must have missed it. I'm talking about musical stabs, like the piano stab. Yeah. I'm not talking about stab scratch. When we're in beat juggle world, there's no such thing as a stab scratch anyways. So yeah. I'm just talking about hing, stab, stab, piano, piano. I don't know. I just always call it a stab when it's like just a hit. Okay, so full pattern. So first half. Okay, baby snare and then the tap. And then the second half goes back to the 4 over here and with the tap before the 1. Yeah, so putting them both together, the hardest part of this pattern for me is just memorizing it all and remembering it all to perform it. But I'll put it together here. Yeah, there we go. That is drill number 5, is putting those two halves together into one pattern. And yeah, as I said, that's one of the exact patterns from J Slim's Juggle. Now, the next pattern is the second pattern he goes into. So for these types of mixed tempo juggles, one thing that's really unique about them is that depending on what side you start with, and this is one of the reasons why it's important to be pretty ambidextrous with juggling and trick mixing, because something like this type of juggle, it really unlocks stuff. Because if you start on the slow side, you get different sounding patterns than if you start on the fast side. So the first set of patterns, he was starting on the slow side, and the next set, we're actually going to start on the other side. So we're going to start on the fast side, and I would recommend trying to keep the slow and the fast one on the same side that you start with. Like, don't switch them for the second pattern. Like, actually try to start on the opposite side. So for this one, we're doing one of the keys is on the slow side. Every time we cue it in this pattern, I believe, it's always cueing from the piano before the 1, so the double piano, even when we're hitting it once. I think that makes this pattern a little bit easier to follow. So we're going to hit these 2 stabs and then one of these. So high, high, low snare. Just like that. And then play the 2 low here. And then when you do the 2 low here, you're going to do 2 fast here. It did change, Red Boogie. I sent an email. I actually, didn't really realize that the time change would affect stuff. I sent it really last minute when some of the people right away mentioned that the time had changed and we were earlier. So apologies for that. Blame whoever decided daylight savings was a cool thing. But yeah, 2 stabs here, trick mix, and then 2 low stabs, and then back to 2 high stabs. So you can practice just the first half of the first half of the pattern by doing that if you want. And then after you get to that point in the pattern, we're going to do a pause and then a broken chase. So right here. I'm not too sure what you're asking, Kevin. So that's the start of the second half of this pattern. Tap. So high pitch, tap, high pitch, low pitch, snare. So putting it together. Yeah. And then you're going to hit the two stabs here. And then there's a bit of a turnaround pattern in here. Instead of a baby on the kick. So when I did the baby on the kick, Kevin, I was just doing that as a way to loop the first half of the pattern, but that's not the full pattern. That's just a way that you can do only the first half without having to do the full pattern every time. If you have a little patience, and I will show you the entire pattern. So the entire pattern, after you do the tap, there's this one weird turnaround pattern he does at the very end, where he hits two low stabs, two high, and then one low, and then repeats the pattern. That one's hard to explain just like piece by piece, so I'll do the full pattern so you can hear it. There we go. That's a tough pattern, but that's essentially essentially what we got for that pattern. It's yeah, it's not easy. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for cheering me on, guys. The hardest part with this pattern is not the technical part of it so much. That is hard, but just memorizing the variations, because if you miss one tap, or if you hit a double stab instead of a single or whatever, it just throws off the whole pattern, the timing of it. And the other part that makes it difficult is, as I said at the beginning of today's session, these patterns are so rare and unique. I've never seen another juggle with them. And because of that, like your beat juggle muscle memory doesn't really apply. Like, this is sort of a fresh slate. It's kind of brand new stuff. So yeah, as you can tell, even for me, it is not the easiest set of patterns, but this is the next level beat juggle boot camp. So I'm not pulling punches. I'm showing you guys the hard stuff. Yeah, exactly. These are the as I said in previous boot camps, there's going to be some stuff that is geared essentially for, people who want to be world champs, or national champs and that kind of thing. And those are the types of patterns that I think are heading in the right direction. It takes more than just patterns, but patterns are definitely part of it. Ooh, okay. So, I had a couple more juggles that I wanted to show. Yeah, it's an edge no one's using. Exactly. Yeah, I'm showing you guys stuff that is, I think, just unexplored or underexplored. Some of it is fully unexplored. So just making one connection back to, I know some people just got in, so I'll pull it up again. So I have a slideshow with a little cheat sheet here. How do I reveal it? There we go. The slideshow with a cheat sheet. These are like some of the intervals that are both harmonically compatible and rhythmically compatible. On the right side here, like the right side column is the most important one. That's where I've kind of highlighted the ones that are most useful. Minus 44, minus 37 in there, minus 6. Those ones are not going to be as useful. Plus 12, rhythmically, they're not going to be as useful. But even though harmonically those ones are. So for tone play, this chart works for everything. But for beat juggling, it has to be in key, but also in time in some way. So the one that we just did, all this JSlim stuff, is the plus 50% one down here. And then we're going to get into one that some washed up beat juggler dude made, and he uses this one, the minus 25 down here. But then, as you can see, there's a minus 50, a minus 33, a minus 16, plus 25, plus 66. All these ones, I've never even seen anyone make a juggle with it, but I've played around with them, and I know that there's something there, like the beats are meshing in some sort of, whether it's a triplet or whether it's, some other kind of rhythmic division, but they're compatible. So, yeah. So there's some brand new stuff to be explored, never before juggled. Okay, now we're getting into this is one other juggle that has some mixed tempo stuff. I want to show a couple juggles that I'm not even going to break down patterns from them because, as I've said in this boot camp, I want to give you like practical, versatile stuff. The patterns that I showed you so far are actually pretty versatile, and you can use those ideas on other things. These ones are pretty specific, but it's still worth going over. Like this is Kentaro, and this one kind of bridges a little bit into one of my juggles, but it's Kentaro 2001. And yes, exactly, Red Boogie. Yeah, it will eventually the timing of the different speed beats will eventually get together for sure. Yeah, it's like there's some sort of every 12 bars or something they'll line up, but yeah. The diagram is based on a 1/3 formula. Not fully, I don't think. Like the one that I made there. It's thirds, quarters, halves. It's any ratio. It's like that's without getting too deep into it. That's just how rhythm works. Like every rhythm that we use in music is based on a ratio of some sort. Yeah, so that's how I figured it out. I just explored like the most like natural ratios, and usually those will work out. Yeah, music is math. Okay, so Kentaro does some mixed tempo juggles at the start here, and then he just does some like faderless stuff that kind of ties into one of the patterns I want to show at the end. Oops. Going back a little bit, 1 second, and we'll turn that down. Yeah, so that's just the start of the juggle, but he's using it in more of a musical, like harmonic way. So he's using pitches that are, creating like some sort of a interval that's kind of cool. And he's mostly focusing on the melody. He's not making like a true beat that you can really follow, like where the drums are. That's why learning this exact pattern I don't think is that useful, but it's still worth seeing another way to use it. And here's the rest of the juggle. So yeah, that's Kentaro's NORG juggle. He goes into like some double time, and just the aside from it being like a mixed tempo juggle at the beginning of it and being on topic, he also does a lot of like sort of faderless baby stuff between kicks and snares, and that's going to tie into sort of one of the bonus patterns I want to throw in here. Yeah, he's really kind of bending the pitch with his record control in order to make it stay in time with some of that stuff. And then the other juggle that both of these juggles are sort of leading into my juggle, because sometimes people ask like, how do I make routines, or how do I come up with routines or patterns? And this isn't a routine focused boot camp. This is like all techniques and patterns, as you guys can tell. But I want to give you a little bit of like insight into my stuff. So my next juggle that I made was heavily inspired by this, and Kentaro and some of his faderless stuff worked in there as well. But this one is Vinrock's Beanie Man, and let's just check it out.
30 seconds.
Yeah. So honestly, I still think that is one of the best juggles ever, and especially at that time in history. That was 1998. Yeah, I think you can make an argument that was maybe the best juggle ever at that time. I mean, it's hard to say the best, but I think there's a lot of cool things with it. So, this one, we're not going to break down patterns again, because most of the interesting patterns are honestly like, I mean, you can learn them, but at the end there, just to make sure everyone caught that, he's using his belly on the fader as like a third hand to even like pull off some of these. So obviously super cool, super unique patterns. Never seen them ever since, but like, yeah, I don't know. Like I don't even know how to show those patterns. Like I'd have to put the camera in a different place. You wouldn't even be able to see what's happening. So the takeaway is to just know like that's something that like creative to do. Let's see, just a second. Yeah, so yeah, exactly. You gotta go on like a weight gain diet to do some of these patterns. But anyways, so important things about this juggle. One, It's a 45 pressing of the track. That's sort of what makes this whole juggle work, I think. Um, that's how he's able to slow it down in the second half of the juggle is the track is playing at original speed at 45. It's a 45 pressing, and then he puts on 33 to slow it down because there's no ultra pitch or anything, right? This is one of the few, like there's so few juggles that ever do that, because how many like 45 pressings of like good juggleable tracks are there? It's just a hard thing to even find. So yeah, that's like the coolest thing I think about it. But then on top of that, it sort of enables these unique patterns. Like with it, like the only way to do some of those patterns is having the beats playing so slow, like probably, I don't know, 60 BPM or something, and then being able to hit the different pitches, and then on top of that, the whole like belly body trick, which is a body trick, but for me, like my favorite body tricks are the ones that are actually musical or like have like a purpose to them, and like they look cool, but they also like sound cool. And in this case, I think like not only does it sound cool, but there's no other way to do it without the body trick. Like the body trick it's not just a body trick; it's actually like a legit technique. Yeah, it's like a third hand in there. So yeah, so very interesting juggle, and it's one that I saw early on, and I was always like, oh man, this is like one of my favorite juggles. Like it's definitely it's got to be a top 10 for me. And I was always like trying to find like a 45 pressing, or I was always like, man, like nobody's done these slow juggles. Like everyone speeds the track up to 45. That's, our first week of stuff. There's lots of examples of 45 juggles, right? But going slower, there's not very many examples of it. It doesn't happen much. So I was always looking for something like that. So then, now that's a little background, a little insight into this juggle and how this came about. So this is my full clip juggle. And we're going to go into like the main pattern. I'm going to break down the main pattern that is probably another level 5 pattern. Honestly, like, yeah, I hope that I pull off some clean ones, because embarrassingly, when I was practicing the pattern this week, I was not hitting it nearly like this video. Let's just say that.
You wanna mess with this? You wanna the best yet? I'm nice like that.
There we go. So yeah, it's so that was my take on a mixed tempo juggle. And yeah, so basically the kind of like just, to yeah, there's vexception going on right now, Death Switch. So essentially like the just like so you guys have some like insight into how the routine came about. This is basically me mixing the J Slim idea of like 2 different tempos with the Vinrock idea of slowing down tempos, and then there's a little bit of like a kick pattern that is is inspired by Kentaro, more Kentaro's 2002 routine, but yeah, just Kentaro style, like Faderless stuff, mid juggle. But yeah, that's essentially, so that's it. That's how I kind of came about it. And that's just like a bit of a lesson in, I guess, like in how you should kind of use some of this stuff in the boot camp. You know, don't just take the patterns like verbatim and put them on a different beat and then enter a battle or something. Like, you know, I took the general idea of mixed tempo stuff from J Slim and I searched around until I found a different interval that worked as per the cheat sheet. And I, you know, the sort of the way I stumbled upon doing the slower one was because of the Vin Rock, like, Beanie Man, slow down juggle. And yeah. And that's, yeah, that's sort of the background of it. Now, let's get into the pattern. So this is the main pattern of the breakdown. Oh yeah. So, okay. So just to answer the question, in the first half of it, I just set a loop on one of the kicks, and that's how there's, yeah, that's how and then I'm using the snares on the other side. Yeah. So I just have a loop saved, like, just like how you do here. If you look at my screen right here, if we'll say I hit a cue point here, but the loop is already saved, right? So I have a loop on the, kick that's happening in the track, and then when it gets to there, you know, it's in the loop, but it was a really short loop, obviously, so it's just like automatically starts playing. Here, let me just do it. I'll just demonstrate real quick. So something like, yeah, it'd be like this. That's how I started the juggle. Yeah, and then let's see. So for the actual pattern, so I used -25 on the turntable to achieve it. However, was that the first year Serato was permitted? No, that's 2016. That juggle is actually one that I didn't use in 2015 for my world final set. So that actually got cut. So just any prospective world champs out there, that juggle was not good enough for my world final set. Yeah, I posted a story about it kind of not too long ago on Instagram. You can find it. But yeah, essentially that routine got cut, and then what ended up replacing it was the Sega routine. So, yeah. Okay, so for this pattern, I have made an edit of the beat because in the actual routine I'm using -25, and you know, I slowed it down manually. But I know a lot of you guys have 1200s and stuff. You don't have 25% pitch range, so I got I just slowed it. I made an edit of the beat that's slower for that. So one side you're going to have, okay, 2 different speeds. That's going to make it possible for you guys to do. Otherwise it just wouldn't be possible to do this pattern. So yeah, this one is a tricky pattern because, so I'm slowing down the track, but then, like I said, with mixing, like when you mix different speeds together into one, these should both be at 0 or -8. Maybe -8 is better for this pattern. Yeah, -8 is probably better. So when you're mixing the tempos, it's going to sort of unlock something in between somehow. So the however it worked out with this this juggle, I'm basically juggling at the speed of the slower beat, and it becomes a straight rhythm. It's not swung either, so it's not like a funky like da 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 da. This one's a more aggressive sound, you might say. So just to get the feel of it, you can do sort of the intro that I did, like. Actually, I'm going to do it at 0. That sounds a little weird. 1 second. Yeah. So so you can tap and then you can just play this side. And then okay, this pattern, I don't know if there's really an easy way to do this. So I'll just start breaking down. So this one, I hit the kick and then do 2 up fader stabs and snare. And I tap before the snare. So that's what you're doing right out the gate. Already that's like not easy to do, but. And then I fill right away. So there's a piano here, a high pitch one. You're going to go low, high, low, fill. And right away, like right there, that's when I started messing with this. That's something that I heard. Like that's not a normal, like sounding fill. Like like it's a stuttery one, and that's kind of what gets unlocked by doing this specific speed interval between the 2 beats. And then on this kick, I start trick mixing at the regular speed of this. I'm just doing fills like that. So that's the first half of the pattern essentially. Okay. So I'm just 2 up fader stabs and then fills on each side. I guess, if you want to be extra spicy, I did a cross hands when I was doing the fills there in the actual routine. Yep. If you want to just add a body trick. And then the second half of the pattern is, I'm doing like that's it. So I basically do using the kick on the 3 and the snare on the 4, and I bring it back to the snare here. This snare, because I pitched the beat down in Ableton or whatever, or it was Ableton, not whatever. The snare is like kind of in a weird place, so that's something to pay attention to. When I did it on -25, that's one of the benefits of it, is your kicks and snares are all where you expect them to be. So second half of the pattern. So you don't have to do the one-handed stab like I am. That's just sort of one of my things I do a lot. You can do it without the one-handed stab. Yeah, but that's essentially the end of it. They're the second half of the pattern. Yeah. And then you have to get it back, and in the actual routine, I bring it back to the note before the one. You can add a baby scratch too. That's probably easier, but you know, it's always a balance of what's easier or what sounds better. I like the dun, dun, like the two notes. Yeah, this one's hard. So that's basically that is the idea of the whole pattern. I'll try and loop it 4 times cleanly so that you guys can get it. But again, this is a very, it's not an easy pattern. These 3 patterns are going to be 3 of the toughest patterns of the boot camp. But there's also some stuff that's not so bad. The next pattern's a little easier. We'll bring it back down for the last pattern of today. But there, those are the cleanest ones, I think. So that's the demo for the second last pattern. That's my full clip main breakdown pattern. Yeah. That's yeah, good luck. That's what I can say with that, I guess. Yeah, hard one to break down, but what I can say is kind of do the first half and the second half. That's, like I do kind of do it. It's an A-B pattern. So the way I composed it is the first half is like the trick mixing with the notes and stuff. And the second half is mostly focused on the kicks and the sort of double kick scribble on the other side, the kick snare, one-handed thing. So you can kind of break it down in halves and try and get it. Okay, the last one. So this one, in the full clip juggle, there is a little variation I do where I'm like doing like a something like this, like with these 2 kicks, yeah, it's kind of inspired by Kentaro. Kentaro does a lot of like these kind of things. Yeah, you can't see them, but don't worry. I'll show you the demonstration. But it's just like Faderless. I'm just sitting in the chair doing it. But it's like these Faderless things. And this doesn't tie directly into it, but it's kind of related. I did a platter off. Like one turntable is just not even playing on one side for this one pattern. And yeah, I'll show you the juggle, and then I'll break down the idea of this one.
For y'all hokey pokey punk pussy motherfuckers, just to show y'all I do what the fuck I wanna do. I want y'all to check this on the real, and yo, check this out. Check this out. Check this out.
There we go. The Lenny Kravitz juggle. Yeah, I used that one. 2013 IDA helped me win that world title at least. But yeah, that's do the kicks and snares always fall around the needle? They do not. No. If you if you pay attention to that juggle, you can rewatch it in the video link. But that track's like around 80 BPM or something. So no, it doesn't. And I don't edit beats to beat match them to my stickers or anything like that. I do it for the Bootcamp. Just it's sort of like training wheels for you guys a little bit. But for an actual juggle, like you don't need to. Honestly, if you this is how I usually put it. Like if you're making like a juggle with a track and you're like really, really putting time into it, you're going to juggle that track for like tens or 20s of hours. Like you're going to juggle it for so long that you'll have burned every kick and snare for the next 16 bars like into your soul. So you don't need stickers. It's like stickers are good when you're backspinning like to the beginning or something like that, but when you're making like a routine, especially chase type of routines like that one, it's just impossible to sticker every note, but you don't need to. It's just muscle memory, and like I can do that whole chase blindfolded, like literally. I don't need to look at it at all. I can just do it by muscle memory and feel. There's only specific moments or specific patterns where I do need a visual sticker for, but definitely not for every single note. Yeah, I think some people get a little bit like, I don't know, intimidated by that almost, or like when you haven't gotten to the point quite yet where you can just sort of feel the rhythm of the beat and you can kind of just know how much to pull back each note. It might feel like impossible, or it might feel like just too daunting, but trust me, like the more you just work with a beat, and then once you get to that point with a single beat, like the next beat you use is going to be easier and it comes a little bit quicker. It's the same, the sort of more bite-sized way I can put it is like when you're scratching and you're using like say you're using Break It Down. When you're first scratching like a vocal sample with 3 different parts, you might sticker each part on your record, right? And you might just need that. You might need stickers at each exact syllable. But once you get like comfortable with it and you've used it for a while, you only need a sticker at the beginning, and then the rest of it you kind of know, you can feel your way to each syllable, right? Beat juggling is the same, except it's like longer. So instead of just 3 places, like for that Lenny Kravitz chase juggle at the end, which is probably, I don't know, 30 different sections or something that I'm queuing up, but it all feels the same. It's just like you get used to it and you know where things are. So yeah. Anyways, so for this one pattern that I want to show you guys, so this is this doesn't have to be mixed tempo. It's not really. It's sort of a mixed tempo, faderless, platter off type of thing. But I call these just like faderless flares or faderless chirp flares in some cases. But whenever you have something like this, like 2 kicks in a row, hopefully if you're in here you can do a 1-click flare. If you can't, that's fine too. You don't actually need to 1-click flare to juggle, but the idea of a 1-click flare helps with this because you just sort of baby scratch between the 2 notes and sort of create like a fake 1-click flare. Right? Like it's just using the silence between the notes. And that can be super useful for creating like little drum fills and that kind of thing. So in the Lenny Kravitz juggle, I have this one pattern that's something like. So I'm doing the note on the 1, and then I'm doing. So 1 2 1 2 1 2, 2 forward, 2 back, 2 forward, into the snare. Kind of gives you almost like a double bass pedal sound, like some metal drum or something. So yeah, this is just the pattern I want to show you from that, is doing that between the snare, and then I do a few more, and then push it to the snare over here. Just like that. So I'm literally just baby scratching between the two kicks. One little like extra detail, you don't have to do this to do these types of patterns, but in this case I did it with the platter off, and it's because there's like notes after it that if I push to the snare it would sound like messy or offbeat or something. So I just was like, oh, I'll just like turn the platter off and just push into it, so it just automatically stops when it gets to the snare. Sounds kind of cool. So yeah, so this side's platter off, and so the basic pattern is literally just 2 forward, 2 back the whole time. So that's like the that's like the basic. Yeah, exactly. Kentaro is who I was inspired by for this kind of thing. He does it a lot in his juggles, and I always thought that was a very cool thing to do, to kind of take advantage of like these extra notes, and it's always nice to have these like extra faderless patterns in your pocket. So yeah, so that's the basic one, and then so that's like I call that like a faderless flare, just like one click flare. But then you can also do like a faderless chirp flare. So you're alternating just a baby scratch on the kick with the 2 forward, 2 back, with the 2 kicks forward, 2 kicks back. You can do it on a kick or on a kick snare. They both sound cool, but I do that in the pattern too. So I'll just show you a few of the variations I did and put them all together. So I do just the kicks at the start, and then the second variation is so the second variation I do a chirp flare, faderless chirp flare on the kick. Yeah, like that. So first two variations, one is just doing double kicks back and forth, and the second is a chirp flare variation. Yeah. Always do, no, the first snare comes from the right pro move. Yeah. You hit the 2 kicks and then the snare. So before the snare, I'm always doing 2 forward, 2 back. But the only thing is the pattern changes after the snare hits. So yeah, first variation, 2 kicks both directions, second variation, chirp flare, and then the third time I just do like a longer chirp flare variation. So I'll do the full pattern so you can hear it all together. So it's A, B, A, C sort of pattern, 2 kick 1, chirp flare, 2 kick 1, and then the last part is doing a longer chirp flare. Your hands shouldn't be in no hand land, Mr. Ring. The key is your hands shouldn't be there. My hands are allowed to be there. There's yeah. This is one of these things with a lot of technique stuff. Exactly. Do as I say, not as I do. I break these rules for certain reasons sometimes. Sometimes it's for actual legit reasons. There's some of these patterns today that are really hard to do without doing it. It has to do with the length of the backspin and the speed of the backspin. Basically, if it's too fast for a pull and catch, and too long for a wind back, sometimes you just have to do it. The other reason I do it is because sometimes I'm just lazy and I'm not really thinking about it. But I always say this: if it's like a really, really hard pattern for me to do, like this one is not a hard pattern for me to do anymore. But if it is, I'm probably going to use better like technique, and you'll see me not being lazy on those techniques. But sometimes, yeah, if you catch me doing that, do as I say, not as I do. Okay, the full pattern. Okay, there's some good ones in there. I'm gonna do it one more time because I actually accidentally had the record playing instead of Faderless at the start. I got it stopped, but yeah, here's the full pattern. Yeah. So the key is the very last pattern there. I didn't show that one in isolation, but the very last pattern, I just do one of these and then a longer sort of chirp flare pattern. That's the fourth bar or the fourth loop of this pattern. Let's see. Yeah. So that's it. How you guys feeling? That's the last pattern of today. Is there a reason I pull it back for the one instead of letting it play? Pull it back for the one on the right. Oh, like I'm not just letting it play like this in the in this pattern, you mean? Yeah. It's probably because the like I'd have to actually check the beat again, but my instinct from memory is that that pattern, like the double kicks that I'm using, don't start right on the one. Like they're like it's like a kick. It's like a kick on the one, and then the double kick is on the end for that one. So I believe that's what the reason why I pull it back in that one. But yeah, of course, for the boot camps, as I said many a time, I try to give you guys versatile patterns and patterns. Some of the patterns are slightly easier versions or just slightly more practical. Like this variation I'm doing here is the one you would find in the wild more often or something. Like you'd find places to use this one, like this would be the more typical place. And then, yeah, that Lenny Kravitz like breakdown is just, it's a really weird like kick snare pattern and stuff. Yeah. Nice, Slang. Yeah, man. Some of these patterns are very, very complicated. Yeah, this they're hard for me, let alone anybody anybody in here. So yeah, just take it a piece at a time. Tackle the patterns that make sense and that you think you can get. Don't dwell on the ones that are too tough. Like, don't just beat your head against the wall trying to do my full clip pattern, like and not move on until you get it, kind of thing. Like, if it's too hard, go to all the patterns that you think are easier. And honestly, like, the full clip pattern and the 2J Slim patterns are probably the last patterns in this whole series that some of you guys will be able to do. So it might be best to just leave them if they're too tough. But yeah, get your any questions other than what you guys have said already. But yeah, that's all the patterns for today. Yeah, this one was like, I had less routines to base it off of, like I said, because it's a niche topic. But I think it worked out because I hope you guys feel this way too. But the patterns are not like basic patterns. Like, all these patterns are tough and they're quite a bit deeper. So I think, not having quite as many patterns and video references is okay. Kind of balances out. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I said that at the beginning, first bootcamp too, but I strive to give you guys what I would perceive as like a month or more of study material and practice material like every week. So, this is, even though we do it in 4 weeks, this is like a 4-month thing. Slang love. I mean, there's I wrote it on Instagram. If you look, in the last like few months, I posted the full clip juggle and wrote the whole story out. But essentially, this is how it went. I was prepping for 2015 DMC Online, and my routine was as follows. The KMD part, rhythm you have it or you don't. The full clip juggle was next, I believe. And then the welcome, or the next level, welcome to the next level routine that I had. And then the ending was my guillotine juggle with the tone, that thing. And then I showed the routine to some friends to get feedback. That's always something you should do. Like, you got to be humble and get feedback, and like, don't just assume you like know what's sick. Sometimes you show people stuff and they're like, oh, it's whack. Or sometimes you show people stuff that you don't think's good and they think it's better than you think. So it's good to get insights. And one of the people who's a good, trusted person for me to get feedback from was DJ Dopey, 2003 DMC World Champion. Obviously, like, he'd done it before. He did what I wanted to do, win the Worlds, and he knew what it takes. And he's always like, he's just one of those people who's like, I'd send him stuff for feedback and he would take the time and give me good feedback. Not everyone's like that. You got to also find your people who will give you good feedback and not just tell you it's dope. So Dopey said to me, he said, like, yeah, the routine's really good, but I don't know about the full clip part. Like, it's a good juggle, but I don't think it's like a world champion juggle. And he gave some reasons. And at the end of the day, I not only agreed with him, but I knew he was right, like deep down. Just because, like, for 2 reasons. One, full clip has been juggled so many times, and it's such a classic song that is sometimes the more classic and the more people have used the track, the bigger your uphill battle is to make something impressive, because sometimes it's like once you even use the track, people are already like, oh, I've heard that before, you know? You're competing against not only like the other people in the battle, but you're competing against like the history of people who have juggled that track, and some pretty dope jugglers, including Perseus, as I showed in an earlier boot camp, already touched that track. So as much as I thought it was like a really good flip of that song, I couldn't really find another song to use that idea on with the -25. And yeah, and I was just like, yeah, he's right. Like even though it's using the -25 and stuff too, I think there's something like it's at a world final level, it's missing like the spice that really makes it stand out. Like I feel like it's the type of juggle where like the heads will get it, and people paying attention really appreciate it. But in a battle, it's not flashy enough or something. It doesn't stand out. It's not unique enough. You know, not just having unique patterns isn't always enough. Like sometimes it does come down to track selection. It comes down to like, you know, getting way further out of the box than just flipping a track like full clip, I guess. So because Dopey said that, I scrapped it, and then the only thing I had that I was working on that could fill the gap was I had this literally a drum loop, and I downloaded that week I downloaded a bunch of these Sega Genesis samples, and I just recently got a PDX 3000 turntable, so I had the keyboard hooked up, and I was messing with it, and over this drum beat I was like Sega Sega, and I made this little melody with it, and that was basically, that's the history of it. I produced the beat around that drum loop and around that Sega hook, and I just found more Sega samples to work with it, and and that whole routine, that whole Sega part, came together in a month, which it felt like super short notice for that routine at the time, because really when I made the decision to scrap full clip, it was like the Sega routine was like nothing. It was a sample and a drum beat, and that's it. And like the keyboard part, the melody of it. So yeah. But yeah. That is what Dopey's comment was, Death Switch. He was trolling, of course, but yeah. No, I don't think a keyboard in a routine had really been done, Rep Boogie, but like just because it wasn't really allowed in the rules. So I did it for DMC Online. For the live version, I just had I had a variation of it without the keyboard, but yeah, that's sort of so that is part of the reason I wanted to use the keyboard, because I was like, I haven't really heard people control the turntable with a keyboard like in battle before. I'd seen people do it in showcases, and people had messed with it for sure, but not in a battle. And yeah, and that's, I guess, like, you know, just a little background and insight. Like whenever you're making battle routine stuff, like doing trying to do stuff that you haven't seen before, innovative, unique, like trying different things. That's the spirit of it, you know. At the end of the day, the spirit of like turntablism and battling is trying to just do something you haven't seen, and trying to take inspiration from stuff and push it in a different direction and put your own stamp on it. Yeah. Did I drop samples with the pads? I did cue the samples from Mortal Kombat on the tiny Rain 62 pads in online and live battle. That is actually the hardest part of the set. Nobody nobody thinks of that anymore. But back on the Rain 62, the buttons were like half of this shift button, and that's like all you had to hit to like cue stuff. And now like it's like 6 times the size of the buttons we had to hit. So trying to like hit a sample in the middle of your routine was like the riskiest thing you could do, because you like go to hit a sample and then all of a sudden like you've loaded a new track and hit an air horn, or like who knows. Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, you hit them too hard and they just fall right into the mixer because they're made of plastic. Anyways, homework time. Are we done with story time? That's the background of the routine, but yeah, hopefully that's kind of interesting, at least.